What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Epic Dad Legacy Podcast. This is the podcast that is dedicated to helping you level up as a dad and become the husband, father, and man you are called to be. My name is Drew Camp. I'm the founder of the Epic Dad Company. And I want to say thank you for being here. Hey, guys, this show has just continued to grow, and it is all thanks to you. We do not run ads on the show. And so the only way we're going to grow is through word of mouth. So my only ask is if you get value from this episode, this specific one you are listening to right now, two quick asks. I want you to go down and leave us a rating and review, whether that's on iTunes or Apple. It takes 2 seconds and it really helps us get exposure to other dads that need to hear this message. And ask number 2 is I want you to share this specific episode with a dad that is in your circle that you think could benefit from hearing it. So that is how we grow, guys. That's how we grow this mission. And that is how we change the world by creating more epic dads is through you. All right, guys, with that out of the way, today I want to talk about an awesome guest that we have on the show. We have got on Chris Rodack from the Rising Father. Now, the Rising Father is a brotherhood of men striving to grow as fathers, husbands, and leaders of their community. And I first found out about Chris almost a year ago, just by scrolling through Instagram. And him and I have been connecting ever since. I actually had the chance to jump onto his podcast, and now he's jumping onto mine. And I tell you what, I was instantly drawn to Chris and his message and his ability to bring out the best in men and specifically fathers. Chris has been growing the Rising Father community for the past couple of years, but has just recently made it his full-time gig. How cool is that, guys? Spending all of his time and effort helping dads become the best versions of themselves full-time. Now, Chris's discipline, work ethic, and mindset, they're a stark reminder that we are all capable of so much more than we give ourselves credit for. We simply have to make the decision to go all in on ourselves. We have to remove the bullshit excuses, build the right habits, and surround ourselves with like-minded men. Now, Chris and I on this episode, we talk about how you can start leveling up as a dad, not only in your fitness and nutrition, but how you can start showing up for your family the way you were meant to. All right, guys, let's jump into this episode with Chris Rodack from Rising Father. Are you ready to become the dad you were meant to be? Good, because this is the Epic Dad Legacy Podcast, where imperfect actions are better than perfect ideas. Promises kept are more important than promises made, and nothing happens unless you make it happen. My name is Drew, father of 3, the founder of the Epic Dad Company. My mission is to help dads up their game and become the husbands, fathers, and men they're called to be. We need epic dads now more than ever, and it is your responsibility and obligation to become the best father you can be and show your kids what is possible. Listen in for weekly tips, strategies, and actions you can take to go from average dad to epic dad. Thanks for listening. Now let's start the episode. Yes, like I said, the 2 a day before was going to be a little bit difficult, but now, I'm finding that it's a lot easier, especially too, if you start to incorporate like walks. Like a big thing for me is 10,000 steps a day. And like, I would traditionally break that into probably like 2 or 3 different walks. But now I'm like, all right, cool. I'll just, go for 45 minutes on one of them and have like 6,000 steps, so it's been a little bit easier.
And like what I was saying is whenever you get your first workout in super early, by the time noon, 2 o'clock rolls in, I feel like I can't even remember that workout. But you look back and you're like, thank God I busted my ass early in the morning, because you can, you feel so good at that point. But
yeah. And then too, stuff just pops up during the day, right? That you can't control, so it's like, if I don't get it done in the morning, there's just so many variables during the day that could take over and different priorities, So I think it's not like I want to get up early and work out, but it's like, that's, literally the only time I can control, to get it done.
Yeah. You own that, especially if everyone else is sleeping. Like, it's like you just said, you're eliminating the crazy variables that could happen. And if it's only you and, the moonlight, nothing else, like no sales calls, no one's talking to you at that point. Like, you've got 2-3 hours to yourself. You can get done whatever you want. And if you get done a lot, it's all under your control. If you get done nothing, that's your fault also,
Yeah, that's right, man. So, well, Chris, dude, I'm happy to have you on, man. I know we've connected quite a bit, just through social media and had the opportunity to come onto your podcast, which is awesome, man. So appreciate you having me on, but wanted to have you on and really just kind of hear your story, going from the typical dad, right? That happens to, it seems like most of us. It's just some of
Yeah.
us look in the mirror and we have that awareness that we want to create a change, and you created some massive change. So I want to hear your story, man.
All right. There's a lot of different layers to it, and I'll be rambling. So cut me off whenever you want. Um, so up until like a month ago, I was a middle school band director. I left my 9 to 5 and I've gone all in on in the men's space with my brand and coaching program and men's groups, which is Rising Father. And thanks again for having me on. You've got an awesome brand, awesome products, and just killing it. So happy to be in your
I
circle.
appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. So like I wasn't always in terrible shape. Like I post before and after photos, and like for me, like I really want to show people what's possible, like the transformation that is possible. Because if I were to go back 10 years, I could also find a picture of myself where I was in pretty good shape, not like I am now, but I like to show people that if you're in this shape, like over the last 5 years, like look how bad a shape I was in. Look how fat I was. Look how sloppy I was. If you look like that, you can look like this. And like with my before and after photos, I like to show that contrast of what's possible. So I went to school for music. I wanted to be a music teacher. I would go up through high school. I loved my band teacher. I wanted to be a music teacher. So I did. And when I was in college, I was pretty athletic. I was pretty in shape. And then I just got obsessed with the saxophone and was practicing like 8-10 hours a day. Went from like the worst player in my college to the best. I won like a couple of national competitions. But it took up so much of my time. It's the only thing I cared about. So during my senior year of college, I put on like 30 pounds. I just stopped working out. Because in my mind, I couldn't do both things. So that happened to me. And then I met my wife in college. Over the next couple years, we were engaged, and probably 3 years happened before we got married. And through that time, I also put on more weight. So I went from like 190, 180 to probably like 235. At some point, you just kind of stop counting. And then I remember looking at myself at that point. This is like 14, 15 years ago. We're talking right now. I looked at myself and was like, man, just 5 years ago, I was in so much better shape. Like, what is happening to me? And I said, I got to get my shit together. And my brother was doing P90X at that point.
Oh, the old P90X, man.
Yeah, Beachbody workout with Tony Horton, which badass workout. So
yeah, man. Yeah, I always remember from P90X his little ab ripper X.
oh my God.
Yeah, it was brutal. And he's like, oh, ab ripper X. He's like, I hate it.
But I love it. Exactly. I remember the yoga routine, the 90-minute yoga that I would do.
I think I still have those DVDs somewhere, by the way. Yeah, break them out.
I wish I never stopped the yoga, because that was so good. That's on my goal list, to start that up. But anyway, so I did P90X 3 times in a row, became obsessive with the diet. And at this point, when I did this, I was living by myself away from my fiance, my wife, Sarah, and I was teaching in Salem, Ohio by myself. So I had complete control over myself, no influence from anyone else, no kids, just me in a condo. I would get home from work. I would have like, little containers of food all up and down the fridge. So I would go on field trips with the kids, and I would just have Tupperware containers of broccoli. I was like, what the hell are you doing? But I just became obsessive with it. So I went from like 235 to 167, and I'm 6 foot. So that was like the leanest I've ever been in my life. So I got like shredded at that time by myself. So I was like, great. This is still 14 years ago. And I remember telling myself, I am never going to go back to that weight again. I told myself that. It's like, I'm never going to look like that again. But that was a lie, because I did. And I got married, and we went on our honeymoon to Sandals, Jamaica for a week. And I just I just ended P90X, just took my after photos. I was celebrating. And then I'm on this all-inclusive resort, which I've never been to. I think I gained like 15 pounds in 1 week.
Let it go.
Didn't work out once. And after we came back, we had kegs and bottles of liquor left over from our wedding, and just so much food and stuff. So we had like parties multiple times a week that entire summer, because we were teachers and we had off, and we'd had all this liquor and food. So then by the end of the summer, I was probably like 20, 30 pounds heavier than I was. And then at that point, I was so like, I just didn't want to face the reality of how
Yeah.
much I fell back. And then that kind of set off like a roller coaster from that point over the next 13, 14 years of getting motivated, wanting to work out, losing like 20, 30 pounds, and then going back down. I never got back to the shape that I was or I am in now. It took me a long time to be able to do that. So like I was a music teacher at this point and kept on trying to get in shape, getting motivated, got out of shape. One of the ways that I was able to significantly get in good shape and stay in better shape was by joining jujitsu, just because it's so cardio focused. And like after one crazy session, like you could be down 2-3 pounds. It's like 90 minutes of just crazy cardio and pushing and busting your ass. So that helped a lot, was doing jujitsu. But then, and that was like 3 years ago. So I was in pretty good shape 3 years ago. And then I had shoulder surgery, rotator cuff and bicep tendon surgery. And I couldn't move my arm. I couldn't lift like my arm up above the table. And I could have, if I had my nutrition down at that point, it wouldn't have mattered. But I didn't have my nutrition down. So I was like eating as I had been, and jujitsu was taking off the weight that jujitsu was burning. So I had all this bad nutrition, and then I wasn't exercising, and it took me 2 years to recover from the surgery fully. Still not where I was. But I kind of used that as an excuse not to work out. And like after that point, that's when I got back to like 230, 235. And then I kind of got my ass in gear again and got in the best shape of my life like I am now, and have had to completely rework my discipline. And I started waking up at like I think 3:45 now is my wake up time, and I just kind of over the last 6-8 months, last year, just completely rewired my brain and got used to being uncomfortable a little bit more and got used to pushing through the bullshit. So,
Yeah.
and
What's been the big shift? Because I mean, just looking at kind of the way you have your mindset right now, I don't think you're going back to yo-yoing back to 230, 240.
no,
So what's the difference?
and I just did another podcast this morning with someone, and I was interviewing him. We were talking about that because he had a huge transformation himself. I was like, well, what causes you to say this is finally the time? And I think it is, before I used to always kind of slide towards the comfortable thing. Like I couldn't mentally or emotionally handle the pain or the shame I felt. Like I couldn't, if I got disgusted with myself, like that would be my motivation to work out harder. But I've kind of had a shift in perspective to where, like whenever I do mess up, when I do fail, and I do see myself in a negative light because I screw up, we're all going to screw up. Like I don't take it as personally now, and I don't say like that's my identity. I just say, okay, I screwed up. I'm not going to fixate it on it forever. I just need to try harder right now. Like whenever I failed before, this gets so many guys, including guys in our programs. You promise yourself you're going to do something, and you're all in, you're emotional about it, and you start it, you do it, and then you have your first mess up. So say you nail the macros 7 days in a row. On the 8th day, you screw up. You feel so ashamed and so bad about it that you let that affect the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, and it turns into a year. Like that's what used to happen to me. I used to be like, man, Chris, you can't trust yourself. You fucked this up again. You can never get this right. Like I was so hard on myself when I screwed up, instead of thinking like you're going to screw up again in the future. It's going to happen. How about we just lessen the amount of time that you beat yourself up? Like, okay, you had a donut, you didn't want to, just go to the gym tonight. It's not that big of a deal, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's been more of a change in my mentality and perspective of myself, which is why I'm able to, because I'm going to screw up again. You know, it's going to happen. I'm just not going to say I'm this horrible person because of it. I'm just going to say, all right, let's get back on track.
Yeah, I think it really has to do, and I literally just did a video on this today, like 30 minutes before we hopped on this. It is the big shift for me, and it sounds like it's been for you as well, is taking my focus away from the outcome, right? The end goal, and really focusing on what type of person do I need to become that would be capable of accomplishing that goal. And so it goes back to that identity, right? Of like, who do I want to become? And what are the habits, the disciplines that I need to instill in my life so I can become that person, knowing that like, it's not going to be perfect. I'm going to mess up because we're human beings. But to your point is how do we take that one failure and keep that from, let's just have that be a failure today, right? We lost today. Let's don't have that be a failure tomorrow and the next day and the next day and beat ourselves up about it. And then all of a sudden, instead of a day, it turns into a week, then a month, and then a year. And you're like, holy shit, man. Like, how did I get off track so far? So it's how do I shorten that length of time,
Yeah. And I talked about this. I try to help guys with this because it used to, for me, when I try to help guys, I'm like thinking to my own life. I'm like, what screwed me up? And that's I'm the most qualified to help the old me. So, and when I do my reels, my content, everything, I'm like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to me. I'm talking to the bitch me who used to make that an excuse. So if you ever read my stuff, you're like, man, he sounds a little mad today. It's like, yeah, I'm yelling at myself. I'm yelling at the old me who gave all these excuses and would have given up. Like, I'm telling him what he needed to hear. But I like to think of it like, if you have to do 100 things in your day and they're all like dominoes stacked up, if you nail 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and number 6, you fail, like, are you going to allow 6 to knock down all the way to 100? Or is 6 going to fall sideways? And then you can keep on going with the rest of the dominoes. Like, just limit the amount of damage these individual little screw ups have. And you can continue going throughout your day and get 99 out of 100 instead of, 5 out of 100.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Tell me about your routine. So like, hey, we shift our identity, right? And we say, hey, I'm going to become this type of person. I'm going to focus on the process, right? But like, what type of behaviors, activities, things that you're doing throughout a daily basis are helping set you up to meet that goal and become that person?
I would say in general, I just feel like the outcome that I'm feeling right now is more confident and have a bigger belief in myself because I've been able to do a lot of small things consistently day after day after day that I thought I wouldn't be able to do before. The first one is just waking up early. Like, I used to, because I wake up at 3:45 every day. I'm at the gym by like 4:10. And before, I used to, like, on my sloppiest of times, I would get out of bed at like 6:30, be at work by like 7:15, like not looking good. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, I was a little sloppy at times in my life. Other times I wasn't, but I'm talking about like the sloppiest times, but you might be at right now if you're listening to this, and that's fine. But like, so just believing that I could actually get up early, because I would see other guys getting up early and being at the gym at like 4 or 5 a.m. I was like, are you kidding? Is that even possible? Yeah. Like, is that even possible? And I remember the first time I did it and I was like at the gym, it was like 4:30 a.m. I was like, my God, I'm actually here. And then I would be working out and I completed my workout. I was done by like 5:30 a.m. I was like, holy shit, I can do it. And I'm getting, I would say, less sleep than I have been. Like, I used to get like 8, 9 hours of sleep a day, and I'm getting probably like 6.5 to 7. But I am more energized throughout the day. Now, I'm not like a sleep scientist, but for me personally, okay, not for anyone else, for me personally, I have a lot more energy throughout the day now that I'm getting 6, 6.5, 7 at the max hours of sleep a day and filling my day with things that I enjoy than before, whenever I was eating like shit, sleeping 8 to 9 hours and not taking care of myself. But my routine is I get up at 3:45, I work out, get to the gym like 4:05 to 4:15, work out for an hour, come home. I take a cold shower at home. There's times I don't. I'm not perfect with it. Eventually I want to get a cold plunge when they're not like 10 grand.
Yeah. Yeah, man, let's talk about how ridiculous those are. I'm the same way. Like,
I could go off on this.
I got a tub from Home Depot, like one of those like metal bales, that you like feed horses or whatever. And it's great. In the winter, it's great because I can just fill it up with the tap,
water,
and it's like pretty cold. But in the summer, it's like, I can get it down to like 70 degrees. It's like,
I know.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like, I have this, vision of like, cool, man, I'd love to have like a sauna right next to it, a cold bath, but dude, that shit is so expensive. Yeah,
and I do have a sauna in my backyard. I built that during COVID. Just by myself. I YouTubed it, and
send me that YouTube video.
And on my YouTube, one of the first videos I posted, It's kind of random, but I posted like a step-by-step process of how I built my sauna, and it shows like every single step of the process in my
Yeah.
backyard. And I also
Very
have,
cool.
so I've got a PDF plans, and I also like use 10 different YouTube videos, but I can send it all to you, to anyone if you want.
Yeah.
So I got the sauna. It's like a finished house sauna. It's nice, but the cold plunge would be amazing. But it takes so much ice to get it
Yeah. I know.
cold.
It's like $100 in ice, like
Yeah,
in
to lower
summer
like
to
10
make it down.
degrees.
Yeah.
And I see
I
like
heard,
the barrel sauna, and that's fine. It's still like $2,000 something, but you still have to fill the damn thing
yeah,
with
you still gotta get
ice.
ice. Yeah. That's the big problem is the ice, right? Like anybody can just buy a container, you know, but, what was it? Yeah. I heard somewhere, I'm going to give this a shot. It's probably not going to work, but I have faith in it for now. Is just get like a pack of like 48 waters, freeze them, and then throw those in there. And
Okay.
then that way it's kind of like ice cubes, they'll melt, and then you
Yeah.
can just refreeze them, right? So I don't know if that's going to work or not, but I'm going to give it
That
a
would
shot.
be a funny picture too. You floating in a
It's just floating in
48 water
bottles of
bottles.
water.
Something I've seen some people do like the chest freezer thing. I don't know how that would work. But I do eventually want to get some type of cold plunge, because we went like 2 weeks ago. We had a big family vacation out in the mountains, and it was up in the Poconos. And around Pittsburgh, it was like 80 degrees. Up in the Poconos, it was like 60. And there was this mountain stream behind our house. And the water temperature, like the air temperature, the one morning was like 48, and the water was freezing. So I still was committed to do my morning workouts. So I would do that. And then I would go and take a cold plunge in this like mountain stream. And it was so exhilarating and felt so good. It was just like the sun was just coming up. It was like 5:20. You can still see the moon, and there's birds chirping, and I'm just like laying in this mountain stream. I was like, oh my God, if I could do this every day, man,
Right. Yeah.
I'd be a
Maybe I
philosopher.
should shift my focus away from getting a cold tub to just moving to the mountains, you know, going in a stream in my backyard.
Yeah. But back to the routine. So I wake up, I go to the gym, I do a cold shower. And then I try to do a meditation that's like 5-10 minutes long. I want to get better at meditation. It's like one of the things that, purely for the fact that I hear so many people saying you should meditate. Like, so I'm like, okay, all these people that I admire and are successful are saying you should, so I'm going to try it.
Yeah. It
And
takes some keys.
yeah, so I've done it, and I want to keep doing it because it's so hard for me. Like, it's to not have so many crazy thoughts going in your head, and like to try to think about one thing is really difficult for me. So for that pure fact alone, I'm going to try that. And I do a short journal. My journaling used to be very time consuming, but then was running out of time to do things. So I got to shorten this. So I try to just do a couple prompts. I like to do something I'm grateful for. And then I also try to build my identity and my vision of who I am and what I want to accomplish. So I say, like, you are these things today, and you are going to accomplish these things today because of blank, or you are strong because blank. And I do the same thing with my kids. Or I'll say, you will give energy by blank. You are a good business person because you will do this. Because I feel like every day, even if I did amazing yesterday, today I don't get to celebrate that success. Like, I have to prove who I am today. So I do a short journal, and then I try to do something for my wife that she's not expecting. Like, I like to have the kitchen clean, the dishes done. And in our group, we always do like an active service for our wife before they get up. And that whole process takes 2.5 hours. And then if there's remaining time before people start waking up, then that's where I'll start to make some content for Instagram or start to do some business stuff.
Okay. Yeah, man. I think everybody's gonna have something different that works for them, right? I mean, there's all these influencers and gurus and junk that are like, yeah, man, you got to do 45 steps in the morning and do
Yeah.
this, but I've found the more simple my approach is, the better it is, right? And what I do, I'd love to get your feedback on it, is I try to think of what is like the intention, like what am I trying to get out of my morning routine?
Yeah.
And then also, what is the agenda? So it's two separate things, right? And so like my agenda could be the perfect morning, right? Like there's no distractions. I have 2 hours. I go get my steps in, I get a workout in, I get meditation in, I get visualization, I get prayer, I get connection with my purpose, like all these things, right? I get a cold bath, etc. Like that's my agenda. That's what I want to get done. But like the intention for my morning routine is to connect with myself and to connect with God. And that's it. And so even if something happens, if like the kids wake up super early, when they're supposed to sleep in or something, it throws something off. It's like I can take that hour to hour and a half routine that would be perfect, and I can condense that down to 5 minutes and just meet my intention. I can connect with
Yeah.
myself, I can connect with God. So I found that to be very helpful, is like setting the intention for whatever your routine is going to be, because things are going to get off track. You're not going to be able to do everything you want every morning. And then two, like I said, everybody's going to be different for what they need. But I think it's so important, man, to wake, like the most important thing, it's like wake up before your family, right? Like you need that time. If it's not to connect with yourself and connect with God, like you need that time to do something, to just have some peace of mind, before the chaos of the day starts.
Yeah, you need, and Steve Eckert of The Project, I did a podcast with him, and he talked about this a lot. He talked about having transitions throughout the day, which is something that I implemented into my program, is trying to help each guy develop transitions from, morning routine where it's just you, into business guy, into family guy, into nighttime guy. And because, you could be all zen by yourself, morning routine, and then all of a sudden you've got a sales call and you got to transition to that. You've spent 8 hours with your business, and then your family comes home, and then you got to be the father. So yeah, doing intentional things to become a type of person who can master parts of your day, and having an actual plan of attack for that, I think is really important. Like how am I going to go from morning to evening? How am I going to go from evening to the next day? But what you said about the intention versus the agenda, I think is great, because how I frame for our guys is, whenever we're creating their morning routines, they say, who do you want to be 365 days from now? Like, it doesn't have to be what I do. You don't have to wake up when I do. You don't have to work out when I do. I'm doing what I planned my routine based on who I want to become 12 months from now. And if I do those things 365 days in a row, I think that I can become that person. So who do you want to become? Do you want to work on your finances? Do you want to be in better shape? Do you want to work on your mentality, your emotions? So whatever you want to do, let's craft a morning routine that can help you build that. But we have to, the thing is, like, once we make it, we need to stick to it, and we're allowed to make adjustments. We're allowed to be flexible, but we have to try to keep the promises we make to ourselves. And then also, obviously, stuff's going to come up. You're not going to be able to hit it all the time. Like mine has changed a lot. Mine was too time consuming. And eventually I thought, well, what is the purpose of this morning routine? Kind of like what you're talking about. Like, it's not to fill it up with stuff. It's to get me into a state of mind and improve myself. So changing it, being adaptable and being flexible is fine. But yeah, I would say for me, and what I try to preach is, who do you want to become? Why are you doing it? Do something. Think about what are you going to be repeating that's going to compound over the next 365 days, and add that into your morning.
Yeah. How has your shift and your transition to kind of the mindset you have now helped be a better dad?
Well, I'm being very intentional about, like, micro parts of my day that I wasn't before. Like my morning, like my evening. And what I've done is worked into those parts of my day fatherhood things, husband things, like ways that I can make sure I'm being intentional as a father. Like at nighttime, like I have a morning routine, I have a nighttime routine. Part of my nighttime routine is spending time, 10, 15 minutes with each kid individually, and we build their identity. So I'll say, what did you do today that shows you are strong? And they have to say real events that they did that day that shows they're strong. Like, I went to CrossFit, or I went to jujitsu. Or I'll say, what did you do today that shows you're friendly? And if say, well, we went to the park, I reached out and talked to a stranger. And then I'll say, what are you going to do tomorrow that shows you're smart? And if it's school, my daughter will say, well, I'm going to raise my hand in math class. So for me, it's kind of like the book Psycho-Cybernetics, if you ever read that. It's creating like a vision of yourself based on past memories of what actually happened. That's how you build confidence. So you can do positive affirmations all you want, but if they're not tied to real life events, they're going to be meaningless. So with my kids, what I try to do is I try to create a positive image of themselves, of someone they want to become. And then I try to tie that to things they did throughout the day, and then guide that direction for the next day. So that's one example of something that I've incorporated into my evening routine that is very intentional. That's like, I have to do it every single day. And I would say is a result of me trying to attack the different parts of my day, unlike how I used to.
Hey guys, pausing this episode with Chris for 2 seconds to tell you about our 100% free Epic Dad 7-day challenge. Guys, if you are resonating with this message that Chris is dropping on you, if you know that you need to start leveling up as a dad, but you are stuck in a rut, you're wondering, how do I get started? This is how you get started. Drop down below and sign up for our free Epic Dad 7-day challenge. This is going to be a challenge that is delivered via email, 7 challenges. Each one is about 10 to 20 minutes long for 7 days in a row. And I guarantee you that by the end of these 7 days, you will be on your path to becoming a much better father. This challenge is designed to get you out of your rut, to start getting you some momentum, to start stacking some wins so that you can go out there and start dominating as a father. Guys, drop down below, hit the link, and go sign up for our Epic Dad 7-day challenge, and we will see you on the inside. I love what you're talking about, the individual time of your kid, doing that kind of building their identity. I'm going to take some notes on that and start incorporating that with my children. So like we do something I think everybody should do. I'm sure you probably do as well, is we have kind of a family value set that helps us identify kind of, hey, what are our values? What's important to us as a family, right? Our kids can kind of self-identify with that. And then we try to, same thing, I try to reinforce that, through whenever the opportunity arises, we reinforce that. So like I'll take one example, is we were on vacation last week, and there was a kind of a mini water park, just for kids, but it did have some bigger slides that like you had to be, so tall to go down. And it had one that was not quite like the straight down ones you see, at like Whitewater or what is Six Flags ones or whatever. But for a little kid, it's a big water slide. Like it's a, quote unquote straight down one. And, I was encouraging my daughter, hey, are you gonna go down that one? Like, I'm gonna go down with it, and not pushing her, and she was just like, no, I'm too scared. And I only said one thing to her, and I was like, well, we're camps and camps are brave, and then, like, that's all I said. And then about 20 minutes later, she had disappeared, and she came up and she was just super proud of herself. And she was like, Daddy, I went down the slide. And I was like, you went down the big slide? She's like, yes. And I was like, why didn't you come get me? And like, so she went up by herself. And she said, as she was going up the stairs, she was just saying, camps are brave, camps are brave, camps are brave.
I love that.
Went down the slide. So it's like little things like that. Like as the opportunity arises, is like we have this family value set that we reinforce. But I love kind of you future casting that too, right? Of like, what are you going to do tomorrow? So they can be thinking about that and identifying that as they come into the next day. That's super, super powerful.
And I think if you read I think Stephen Walker is the sleep scientist guy. He talks about, utilizing sleep in your subconscious in terms of guiding your behavior. And even, if you want to come up with an answer, think about the question before you go to sleep. Or, if you want to really soak in something you learned, read it or learn it right before you take a power nap, and it will go into your subconscious. Like, I believe in that. I think that whatever I'm talking to my kids about, or whatever they're doing right before they go to bed, they're going to be dreaming about it. They're going to be thinking about it. And like, if they're playing a Nintendo Switch for 30 minutes and then it's like, all right, good night, and they go to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm not, it's like eating potato chips, it's like eating junk food. Like, I need to be feeding their brains with things that are building them up while I can. Like, that's a free thing. I don't have to pay for the words that I speak to them. But it can do infinite damage, or can do infinite building for them. Like, all I have to do is build them up with my words, and man, that's like millions of dollars. That's like gold to them. Or we could do the exact opposite. So for me, that time at the end of the night is so important to feed their brain for the next day. And it's not just the next day, it's like the next 8 hours they're laying in bed. What's going to be going through their head? Is it going to be me, a father, filling them with warmth and like hugging them and building them up? Or is it going to be, me on my couch on my cell phone, ignoring them? I have that option.
Yeah. No, the bedtime routine is huge, and we try to have it really good for our kids. I need to do a much better job of creating a nighttime routine for myself. But that's a different story. But I try to have a good one for my children. And I need to do a better job also of spending intentional time, individual time with them. I think that's difficult, kind of given our life circumstance right now with, a 16-month-old, and baby number 3. And so we're just kind of strapped for time with the routine at night, but I make sure I go to each of their beds, and tell them good night. And we kind of spend 5 minutes together, with prayer and intentionality and things like that. But that's awesome, man. So how I want to make sure I'm framing this the right way. Like your mindset that you've been developing, over the last 6 to 8 months, obviously is coming out and helping you be a better father, be more intentional. But are you trying to foster that same type of mentality with your kids? What I'm thinking of here is specifically some videos of you and your son working out together, kind of pushing him through some hard things. So, kind of how are you taking that mindset you have and making sure that you're fostering that and you're not kind of pushing too hard on your children?
Yeah. So like I was a teacher for 15 years. Um, and like and for me, I always go back to like, oh, if I was an entrepreneur from 21, I'd be a multimillionaire by now. It's like, no, it's part of my story. It's, I
Yeah.
can't, everyone could say, what if? And it did teach me a lot of really good things about interact. Like I've worked with like thousands of kids now. Um, I also came from a big family. I was one of the oldest of a family of 9. And so I also taught the younger kids then. And some of the things that it taught me were ways to teach kids and help concepts sink in without turning them away from it. Because you can't, like kids, especially in the middle school age, which I was mostly a middle school teacher, they will not buy into anything unless you kind of say it's their idea, or unless you can frame it in a way that it's fun. Like for example, for jujitsu, I had to start out by forcing them to do it. Okay. Like they didn't, because they didn't know what it was. They didn't know what it was. They were scared. So I said, okay, you have to go, you have to start, you have to do 2 weeks or so. And, they didn't want to. I said, well, it doesn't matter. We're going to do it anyway. So they did it. And then, they loved it after that. And they continue to do it. They're like 3 years in now. They love jujitsu. But whenever these little micro arguments come up or issues come up, wherever they say, hey, I don't want to go, or blah, 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 I have to be super careful, because if I'm forceful about it and I come across as I'm this overpowering, authoritative father who's telling you to do something, then the only reason they're going to do it is because they love me and because they're listening to me. And that is not why I want them to do jujitsu. I want them to do jujitsu because they love it. So I always have to be very careful and phrase these things in a way as to inviting them to do it with me, making it fun. Like if I want them to get off the couch and go on a hike with me, I always say, hey, let's, you can bring a snack bag, bring your snack bag with you. You can bring your favorite toy. And they're like, yes, I want to go on the hike, instead of come with me on a hike because you're being lazy. I could also phrase it that way. So you have options in how you present these things to your kids as to, am I going to come across as the judgmental asshole father, or am I going to say, or are your kids going to say, I want to do what dad's doing because it looks like he's having an amazing time, because I love my dad, because he's inspiring me. I could be outside playing basketball and having a great time and attract my kids to come out and play with me. Or I could say, kids, get out there and play basketball. My kids wanted to do CrossFit because my wife has been doing CrossFit every morning for like 3 years now. So my daughter wants to do CrossFit because my wife is doing it. We're not forcing her to do it at all.
Yeah.
You always have that option.
Yeah. I mean, your kids don't listen to a word you say, man. They just don't, like they're never going to listen to you. But what they are going to do is watch you, and emulate your behaviors and things like that. Right. So, I mean, that's like the whole reason that I work out in the garage, sometimes like when my kids are there, I'm like, dude, it'd be so much easier just to like give you guys a tablet, tell you to go inside for 45 minutes, like crush a workout, but I think it's super important for them to see that of like, all right, cool, dad's working out. That's just like what we do, and then they've started to involve themselves in it too, and do burpees and half the time they're in the way, and it makes it much more difficult. But to your point though, it's like I can either tell them, to, get outside when working out, or I can just go do it. Right. And just kind of normalize that. That's an activity we do and have some fun with it.
Yeah. And like like I said, we always have that option of how we're going to present things to them. And it's super important. Everything you say, obviously everything you do, because the tone of your voice can turn them away from it, or it can make them want to do it. And like now our kids have this identity that same thing you're saying, camps are brave, like Rodacks are strong. Like my kids know that now. They're like, And then I could be also because I've been repeating this in their heads every single night for years. I'm like, why are you strong? Because we do CrossFit, because we do jujitsu. So they just think of themselves as strong kids. And that back to that book, Psycho-Cybernetics, it's like, however you see yourself is you're going to fill your life with the actions that boost your identity, that prove to yourself who you think you are. So if my kids think they're strong, they're going to do the things that strong kids do. If they think they're lazy because you as the dad are telling them, why aren't you getting off the couch? You're being lazy. If I phrase it that way, then they're going to think they're lazy, and then they're going to do the kind of things that lazy kids do. Mm-hmm. Or I could say, let's go play basketball. Let's get off the couch because you're so great at basketball, because every time I see you play, you're amazing at it. So, wow, I just completely changed the narrative, and I completely changed your identity. Exact same situation happened, but the outcome's completely different.
Mm-hmm. You said something right there that I totally resonate. I'm going to start implementing. I feel like we kind of do the same thing for our nighttime routine of kind of, instilling those values, those identifiers that we have as a family. But you mentioned the why are you brave? Why are you strong? Right. So in my case, it would be, why are you brave? Right. And that way they would need to come up with things they've done to prove to them that they are brave. Right. So like that water slide example would be a perfect one, of, hey, why are you brave? Well, oh crap, because I went down this huge water slide and I was scared and I still did it anyway. Right. It's like, cool. You proved to yourself that you are brave. Absolutely. And that's who we are. So I'm going to start doing that. I feel like it's, the kind of reinforcing that value set is important so they can identify with it, but be able for them to prove it to themselves that they actually are that, I think is huge.
And that's why you do the morning routines and evening routines. That's why you do the same thing over and over again. That's why Jordan Peterson says, make your bed every day, is because the whole point behind any of that is you proving to yourself that you can do something. And if you're the kind of guy who sleeps in every day, you can't control what you eat, you can't control what you drink, you can't control what comes out of your mouth, you have no control over your life. And that's a scary point. That's a scary place to be at, because if you're not controlling yourself, who is controlling you? So you have to say, okay, since I can't control any part of my life, I need to do the most basic thing. And for me right now, then maybe that's just getting out of bed when my alarm clock goes off. And if you can do that 2 days in a row, you have a little bit of confidence, because you now have that memory of yourself getting out of bed. If you can do it for 7 days in a row, you're going to feel great, because you have actual proof to your brain. Like, you're no longer lying to yourself. I'm no longer saying I'm a wake up warrior, but sleeping in every day. Like, you've proven to yourself over the last 7 days that you have. And then you start to think, well, what else can I do? Because I actually know that I am who I say I am. Like, the conflict comes in is whenever we tell ourselves we're something, but our actions are completely different, because we know we're lying to ourselves, and it comes across like we come across unconfident. Same thing happens with our kids. And that book I'm talking, Psycho-Cybernetics, everyone should read it. It's a plastic surgeon who talked about whenever he changed someone's face, how their actions would change and some people's actions wouldn't change. And he talks about, like, he would work with these sales trainers, and all they had to do was have a memory of one close. And if they had a memory of one close, they could use that memory to replay in their head before each upcoming sales call to give them the confidence to do the next one. And if you have no memories of that, then he said, even create memories, create fake memories of yourself closing, because your brain doesn't know the difference between a visualization and a memory. So that's why he talks about visualization so much. So, but if you have real memories, that's powerful. And he said, even if you haven't crushed say, I want to be a multimillionaire someday, you're not there now, so you don't have to be. Use the memory of yourself. Like, in 4th grade, I won this school race. I did that. That felt so good. That's who I am. Use that memory of yourself succeeding to boost the next thing. And yeah, your daughter on a water slide, like, that's it exactly. It's like, yeah, I am brave because I did that. Oh yeah, I am actually brave. And then by the end of the month, she could have a notebook full of 100 reasons why she's brave. And it's just going to be of course I'm brave. Look at my resume.
Yeah. Look what I've done. Yeah, I am brave. That's what I do. I love that, man. So I want to shift gears just a little bit, get really tactical and practical. So I saw a picture of you on Instagram. You're side by side, right?
Yeah.
Where you were before, where you're at after. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm coming for you, Chris. So I don't have the 6-pack quite yet. It's there. It's not quite as defined yet, but I'm getting there, right? We were talking beforehand. I'm back on the 75 hard and diet's really dialed in, so I look forward to seeing where I'm at in 75 days. But tactically and practically, what has your workout routine looked like?
Mhm.
And what has your nutrition looked like from a discipline perspective to get you where you're at right now?
So I work out 6 days a week. I do, it's about an hour to an hour and 15-minute muscle specific exercise. So Mondays legs, Tuesdays chest, Wednesdays back, Thursdays shoulder, Fridays arms, Saturdays full body, Sundays a rest day, but I still do like jujitsu. I'll do abs every other day, and then I'll do cardio. The goal is to do cardio every day, but I'll also do jujitsu on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then if I'm not doing jujitsu, I'll try to do some cardio in between there. So that's how I work out. And the in terms of like what the workouts look like, it's a lot of high rep. Like I did a bunch of different workout stuff, but I used to do like the Arnold style 10, 8, 6, 4 thing. And then I did, there's this program where everything's to failure. So I do super slow motion, reps to failure. I only go to the gym twice. I did that before, but now it's like I'll be doing like 20 reps of bench press, followed by 15 reps, followed by 15 reps, followed by 15 reps. So it's a lot more of high rep workouts. And it's also a lot of, if I'm doing my chest, I'll do a superset, and the exercise I do before a bench press is a tricep exercise. So I make my triceps fail, and then I'm just only using my chest more. So that's like the physical workout part of it. In terms of the nutrition, I track macros. Everyone in our group tracks macros. I use MyFitnessPal. And I try to be within like perfect or between 1 gram of being off for every macro. So that's protein, carbs, and fat. And mostly you start off with the percentages of 40, 40, 20. So 40% protein, 40% carbs, 20% fat. And for the fat, and why it's 20% is if you try to eliminate fat, it's actually going to do you more harm, because that will take away your hormones, it'll take away testosterone. Like you need some healthy fats to regulate your hormones. Too much fat obviously becomes accumulated fat. So if you're thinking like, where can I start? Get MyFitnessPal, turn it on macros, and do 40, 40, 20. It's a great place to start. So for me, that was like, I think I started at like 1900 calories or something. And I just kind of started slowly cutting. And then but I maintained high protein so that I could build muscle and I wasn't losing all this muscle mass. And then towards the end of it, like right before, because I did the Superhuman Fathers program, like right before they posted me, they're like, you're ready. I was like, I'm not ready yet. So I said, I want to go further. So I was doing like 100. First I did 100 carbs a day for I think a week, and I did 50 carbs a day, and then I did like 0 carbs a day for like 4 or 5 days. And there's like a whole scientific process before what you do before you take like a bodybuilder thing to beef yourself back up. But you had like, the reason I was able to do it was because I was able to kind of suffer through the nutrition part of it. Like if I didn't do the nutrition part of it, you wouldn't be able to see anything.
Yep.
Like even if I was working out that much, if I maintained my nutrition the way it was, you wouldn't be able to see anything.
Mm-hmm.
So because I followed the nutrition plan and learned how to do it, learned the science behind it, and educated myself and reached out and had people explain things to me and learned how to actually teach it myself. Like now, like I can cut weight really quickly. I'm lean bulking right now, where I can bulk myself up while not gaining fat. Like none of this stuff I can do now I knew how to do before. It's like having a superpower. Like I know every food I eat throughout the day. Like I know how much protein, carbs, and fat is in it. I still track it, but like I know, okay, I've got this much left at the end of the night. I got to do this. Me and my wife, we're going out to dinner later tonight. So I pull up the menu beforehand. I enter it in MyFitnessPal. I pick out what I'm going to eat beforehand. I do it. I take scales to restaurants. I took scales to vacation so I can measure it out. It means a lot to me to be the disciplined about that, because I want to be disciplined. I want to show my family I'm disciplined, and I just don't want to return to the person I was before. Mm-hmm. So like logistically, that's how I work out. And with the nutrition, following macros, MyFitnessPal, not being like double over on fat one day and double over on carbs the next day. I drink a gallon of water at least a day. I also do other athletic things. I play with my kids. I walk our dog. We play, and I'll play basketball with some friends sometimes, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I think, and you mentioned something too, like even if you were working out that hard and had the same nutrition, like you wouldn't see the results you had. Right. So I mean, I think we all kind of know that at our core, like, oh,
Yeah.
I need to eat better. Right. But like,
Yeah.
it really does come down to like knowing what's going in your mouth and controlling what's going in your mouth. And I didn't know any of this stuff until I don't know, probably a year and a half ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, man, I'll have, just turkey sandwich or something, like be healthy, like, but no idea, right? That like, all right, cool. Those two, pieces of bread, like that's 50 carbs. And then,
Oh
I
yeah.
have something else later. And like, thinking I'm eating healthy, right? But then all of a sudden, I started to learn about macros and learn about, the, different carbs, fats, and proteins, and kind of what the ideal mix is. And you said it, you hit the nail around the head. It's like a superpower, to be able to know, like, okay, cool. If I can just turn this into a math equation,
Yep.
right, and hit these numbers, like I will see results. It's like it's that simple.
And once you dial in your personal, what actually affects you in a certain way. Like you can do, it's just like you plug it into a computer. Like I know if I eat this, I'm just going to start shedding fat. I know if like say you screw up one weekend, it's like, that's great. Yeah, I know, but in the next 3 days, I'll be back to where I am because I can follow this equation. If I know if I want to put on mass, I need to do this. But the thing is, you have to be disciplined enough to maintain one thing for an amount of time. Like you have no idea how your body's going to react to this equation of macros if you can't stick to the macros.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're all over the place every day, then you have no idea how your body's going to react to any certain set of numbers. Like you need the data. You have to be able to see, like guys, our program is like, you're on macros now. Good. Now we have to stick to them for this amount of days. And only like, I'm going to use that data to then adjust what happens next. But I can only make an adjustment if you stick to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we're over one day, under the next day, then we have to try again the next week. So if you're disciplined enough to stick to that set, then yeah, we can make some adjustments. You can begin to understand yourself.
Yeah. How important is it to dial in your carbs versus fats versus how important is it to make sure you hit your protein target and make sure you hit your calorie target? Because I hear different things, right? Of like, hey, don't worry too much about, obviously like set your target and stay under that or
Yeah.
at that. But, you can kind of, hey, I'm a little heavy on carbs one day, but I'm lower on fats one day, et cetera. But I still hit my protein target, hit my calorie target. Like what's it, is it important that we hit all of them right on the nail every single day?
I don't think it's like make or break if like every single day, but because you have to look at it like every single day isn't the goal. Like the goal is like 12 months. So what's going to happen within that 12 months? So if 10 of those 365 days you're off, it's not going to matter. But like, is it important to hit your ratios? Yeah. Because like I was talking about the fat, like being at 20%. And that's going to vary a little bit, but in general, if you're over 20%, it's going to turn into accumulated fat. If it's under, it's going to take away from your testosterone and hormones. It's going to might do some damage to you. So like the way the ratios interact with each other have an effect on how your body's going to perform. Like if you hit your calorie amount, but you are, I don't know, double protein and have no carbs, then it's not gonna work out for you. Like your body, ideally, if you're going for doing a bodybuilder thing and you're trying to have a transformation, I'm not talking about being a CrossFitter who's in a competition. That's a different world. But in terms of like trying to transform your body, like ideally you'd be eating like 6 or even more small meals throughout the day and combining a little bit of protein, carbs, and fats in every single meal. Like, because whenever you have, and it's simple versus complex carbs matters also. Like you want to have simple carbs after you work out, none for the rest of the day, ideally. But if you have complex carbs in addition to protein and fats, you kind of lower the amount of negative that some of the carbs does. Like you have to have a little bit of each of these things in the ratio to have the optimal effect on your body. Now, do you have to do that? No. Like, I'm talking about optimal. So if you're going for like an unreal physique and you want to push yourself to the limit, then yeah, then do everything 100%.
Mm.
Obviously, if you're like, if you do the macros and you go 80% in, yeah, you're still going to make progress. You're still going to lose weight. You can still have fuel for your workouts, but it's like everything. If you go all in, you're going to get better results. If you go 90% in, you're going to get 90% results. Just depends on what you're willing to do.
Yeah. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong or you think of it differently, but like, you know, hey, you want to lose weight, be in a caloric deficit, right? Like number one. So, you know, that's kind of like target number one, right? When guys are kind of asking us for our, you know, our opinion and stuff like that, it's like, hey, you know, let's make sure we understand what your TDE is, your total daily energy expenditure. And then let's make sure we're eating less than that, right? That's gonna be a caloric deficit.
Yeah,
And then
eating
the other
less is
one,
always good.
yeah, dude, go ahead.
I was saying eating less is always a good start for people.
Yeah, yeah, eat less, do more.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the other one is, you know, yeah, you could starve yourself, right? You know, and fast for 72 hours or whatever. Like that's an approach. But you know, I think the protein, right, especially if you're working out and you want to retain muscle mass and you don't just want to, you know, look like a, you know, flabby skin all over the place, you know, so you want to retain that muscle, so you're working out. So, you know, just make sure that you're hitting a protein target as well, right? And so like that's kind of like the hey, as easy it can be, right? Is like, let's take your what I kind of coach our guys on. You may have a different approach. Is hey, take your ideal body weight, right? So let's say it's 200, and let's do 80% of that is going to be your protein target, right? So that accounts for about 20% body fat, which is if you're way overweight, like let's at least get you down to there, right? And then so that would be your protein target, and then you know the rest of the macros, your carbs and fats, like let's dial them up and down, you know, as you see fit, and kind of as what foods you like and what foods fuel you and make you feel good. You know, that might vary a little bit, right? But you know that ultimately having that caloric deficit and making sure you're hitting your protein target is really going to be a good kind of starting point. And like you said, there's always ways to be more optimal based off of your goals. And if you want to get, you know, into bodybuilding shape and competition and, you know, veins everywhere and all this stuff, right? And down to 8% body fat, like, yeah, you're about to play with it and be a little bit more dialed in than you would otherwise. But for guys that are looking to like, all right, I don't know anything about nutrition. I thought I was eating a Subway sandwich and I was healthy. You know, let's start tracking what goes in your body, and let's have that caloric target, and let's have that protein target.
Yeah, we do similar. I do for 1 pound of 1 gram of protein for each pound of lean body mass. So, and you're always kind of guessing at the beginning because that's, you know, and that's why the data is important. You have to give your best guess of macros at the beginning, and then if you can stick to it, then you see what the body does, how you're feeling. Are you losing weight, gaining weight? What's your energy like? And then based on that first couple of weeks, then you can say, okay, we need to up the protein, you know, up the fat, whatever it is, up the carbs, whatever it may be.
Yeah, good, Chris. Well, how can guys find out more about your program?
Follow me on Instagram. Everything's on Instagram. You could DM me at any time. It's at Rising Father. So Instagram's where most of it's at. We're on Facebook and everywhere else, but we're mostly active on Instagram. And if you just send me a DM, happy to talk to you at any point. It's called the Rising Fathers Brotherhood. We get in the best shape of our lives. Everyone learns. We talk about fatherhood, marriage, discipline, and anything else, really. We cover just being the absolute best versions of ourselves as men and fathers.
Yeah. Awesome, bro. Well, hey man, well, if you're going to leave the guys that are listening, you know, kind of one nugget of wisdom, you know, one piece of gold for them as they're, you know, potentially looking in the mirror, they don't like what they see. They're in a spot potentially, you know, relationship wise with their spouse. That's not great. And they know they need to change. Right. But they just don't know how to. And, you know, obviously a lot of great advice, you know, throughout this podcast, but if you kind of distill it down to, you know, one nugget and that's all they're listening to, what would you leave them with?
I would say, the man you want to become is already inside of you. He's already there. You don't need to wait until you look like him to be him. You can do the things today that man does. All you have to do is say, who do I want to become? Like, do I want to be an amazing husband? Do I want to be a present father? Do I want to be a healthy man? All right, what does that guy do? And then just do those things today, do it again tomorrow. And then it's just a matter of waiting until the external results line up with what you're actually doing. cutting that lag time will happen. And that's where some guys fall off. They're like, I'm doing all the things you said, but I'm not, shredded yet. It's like, yeah, but it's going to happen. It will happen as long as you do the things that the person you want to become does.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, guys, go check out Chris. Go check out his Instagram. Go check out his before and after pictures. Get motivated like I got motivated to jump on 75 hard and get after it. And Chris, thank you so much for coming on, man, and dropping some wisdom and value for the guys that listen to the podcast. What you're doing out in the marketplace is definitely needed. You're creating real change with dads, and you and I both agree that that's what we need, right? We need dads to step up and be the leaders they were called to be. So I appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks so much for having me, man. You were doing the exact same thing, and happy to be in the circle with you.
All right, guys. Well, and that's going to wrap us, and we will see you on the next episode.